Let me zoom. You sure? All right. What's up, Blueprint family? How y'all doing tonight? Thank you all for joining us.
Oh, that's good. All right, everybody get on in here. I'm running a little late. You think you want to zoom in?
Yeah, it's a lot of the couch.
All right. What's up? What's up? All right.
Let me
Let's
get
see.
back. Go to YouTube.
Good? You see it?
Yeah, that should be good.
All right, y'all. What's up? Let's
All right.
get on in here.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us tonight for another great topic of what is this topic about, honey? My
Hormones and
hormones.
your relationship.
Okay.
Let's actually turn this music down on YouTube, y'all. I'm telling you, when you have kids and plans, how many of the parents are out there that understand that? But we are nonetheless in here and ready to have a great conversation that has been what I think one of the most important conversations that we've had, because the first time we ever talked about this, we talked about it in the sense of this was the one thing we wished we knew about before getting married, like actually had an understanding of, and a real, like, I guess,
What are you talking
hormones.
about? Oh, okay.
Having an understanding of like hormones, and I guess how they impact your relationship, because this is what really makes men and women different, right?
Yeah.
Completely different.
But before we start the show, for everyone who's out there, please, if you can, subscribe, share, and also like our videos. Instagram viewers, again, if you all can, also too, like our videos on YouTube. So we've been getting our numbers up, and we really appreciate it. And then also, too, this is a live call-in show. So if you all have any questions or any comments, please be more than welcome to share those with us. As we say, we do this show for you all, for the public. This is like our community service, our service to the public, because someone out there needs help in regards to relationships and family. And that's what we're here for. We're here to give you that source of guidance and advice. So if we can help you, then we'll be more than glad to. So hit us up. And also too, if you all have any topics that you all would like for us to talk about next, please feel free to share that information with us, and we'll be happy to cover those for you.
Yes, so true. So we are going to head on into our question. Usually we start, if we have a good question, most of the time we're able to base a great topic off of this question. And this brought back in, again, like we were saying before, one of my favorite topics, because it's an important conversation to have. As always, if you want to see this topic on the screen, and sometimes we bring up statistics and studies. This time I'm just going to go over some of the studies that I found about this, which is really cool. Sometimes I like to pull it up on the screen for us to actually do that research with you all. That's one thing I do enjoy too. But tonight we're a little pressed on time, so we're not going to be able to get into that. But nonetheless, we're going to go over some great studies that even just show, hey, this is the thing, and it needs to be talked about so that people are better able to prepare for it and mitigate through what will be a cycle. Because, if you are a woman and you're still having your menstrual cycle, it is a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go into the question. Subject: my relationship and my period. I'm going to pull this on up here and read along. It's a really quick question. So, my boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years. Every month during my period, I think about breaking up with my boyfriend. He isn't really being more annoying than usual, but I just think about breaking up with him and wanting to break up with him. Normal? Question mark. No. Short answer, no. It's not normal to have these repetitive thoughts of wanting to break up with your spouse. And obviously, though, I'm glad you're able to recognize the connection between, it's probably something more with an imbalance of what's going on within your body, and less of what's going on in your relationship.
Right. Yeah. I'm curious to see how many women out there go through this, or these type of thoughts or feelings when it comes to their menstrual cycles in their relationships. This is, like my wife said, this is pretty much for men in uncharted territory when it comes to women, because this is something that we don't go through, of course, ourselves. Men don't, we don't menstruate. So and if you yourself have not grown up with a sister or what have you, then often at times this goes, even unnoticed for men. So when we get into relationships and women act out through their hormones, often at times we're thinking like, this chick is crazy. Like, I don't understand why, she's acting like this. And then say for instance, if the guy does leave that relationship and then gets into another one, same situation. This chick is crazy too. Like, all women are crazy. So that's where we get that notion from, of that of us thinking that all women are crazy. In all actuality, all of this is hormonal. And it for men, it can be a shock to us, especially young guys who are out there who think that they can find a woman who's better than the girlfriend they had before, and realize that, oh, she's going through the same situation, this new female. This all becomes so familiar without even understanding hormones and what part they play in your relationship. Yep. So
yeah, that's so true.
yeah, I mean, it's tough. It really is for guys, because for some guys, it could be traumatic. Depending on how bad the hormonal situation is in their relationships.
Yeah, because the symptoms can range from moderate things to, well, in general, when you're talking about like PMS, we're talking about a group of physical and emotional symptoms that go hand in hand together. And they happen 2 weeks. Usually when we're talking premenstrual, it's leading 2 weeks up to the actual bleeding cycle. So that's that time of like 2 weeks before you even see that your woman is bleeding, and be like, well, dang, like that's what it was, all this time I just thought, and it can happen on a cycle, especially if you're not able to cognitively recognize that and then be able to say, okay, how are we going to work around making sure that we both communicate and do the things we need to do so that we're able to adjust to the cycle that's going to happen, because that's really the conversation that has to have. And yeah, it's not normal though. This is, I think, the extreme more so side of having the repetitive thoughts of wanting to break up with your boyfriend. That is more of the severe side, I would think, because it's, especially if you're saying, he's not doing anything, or
I don't think it's as a man and things that I've been through in life as far as dealing with women. I don't think that this is extreme.
Really?
Yeah, really. I really don't think that that's extreme. I think
that is extreme. That is uncontrollable thoughts, like caused by no real thing outside of yourself. That is extreme in my opinion, but I get what you're saying. If it's normal, extreme becomes normal.
Yeah, but like I said before, this is uncharted territory for a lot of men.
Yeah.
And I wish we could take a survey. So, right, how many men have experienced this in their past, of a woman or female all of a sudden wanting to break up with them? And
I would be interested in the women. How many women have those repetitive thoughts of wanting to break up with their spouse? Because to me, that's like,
and they don't even know why.
In a way. Yeah, like, because that unless you're unhappy in your relationship, unless there's some underlying root causes to why you're having these thoughts, like, do you not feel understood? Are you not getting what you need during this time? Are you not like what's causing these thoughts? Because that to me is catastrophizing. But that's unbalanced. Like, that is
right. But that's what that's what women go through, is a unbalance of chemicals, at least once or twice a month, because you also ovulate.
Right.
That's the reason why I'm saying this. And I don't think a lot of women, I don't think a lot of women catch this and realize that, oh my goodness, I'm doing all of this stuff, because it's almost seems as if like after this moment has passed, it's passed. Like you don't even think about it until it happens again. But men are more so, we kind of keep a tally of this. So men that are in relationships, we kind of keep a tally of this, and we often at times we don't forget what was said, or what leads up to a woman's menstrual cycle. And that was that whole speech in the beginning about, wow, all men feeling that all women are crazy, and us not really understanding why.
Yeah.
And hormonally, that is the issue.
Yeah.
Because that is a imbalance in hormones,
right, and
that
it can
causes you
vary.
all to have these to have a cycle.
Right,
So,
which we'll definitely get in the specifics of that, but
mhm.
it varies from month to month too. That's what also can complicate it as well. So maybe even 1 month her premenstrual, or just in general the whole cycle isn't as bad as the previous month, or and that
Right.
may make it less easier to identify
Right.
that is what's going on.
Because
Yeah.
do women even remember like the arguments that you all have during cycles?
Yeah.
And I think more so men do, because for men often at times it can become traumatic, because you're trying to solve. Men are solvers. We like to solve things, and we think that, oh, why is it that she's always feeling this way or going through this?
Right.
Or, and not for men who don't know that it's a hormonal issue, and we can't do anything about it. We just got to give her space, try to help out and be supportive. But other than that, it can become very traumatic to men who are in relationships, and hence the man cave. And that's the reason why we resort to pulling back and retreating in the relationship into our man cave until things are better, until the storm is weathered, and the sun shines again.
And that's so true, because you remember back then they used to have like a red room for women where
right.
in her menstrual cycle,
shed.
the evolution, of how you
And we
got to
talked
the
about
she
that in our
shed.
last video.
Yeah, because it's so true. The women would go to their other room or area with other women who are, around that cyclical time, just like them. And they would just avoid the conversation altogether in a way. But, or maybe even back then, it might have been more of an understanding that, hey, this is an important time. It's a sacred time where the woman is going through something every month, and maybe she needs that space and the man needs his space. And, maybe that was more understood back then than we even realized, because those things existed like coping mechanisms in a way,
Right, because I think, because of the look, they knew. And even we brought it up in that last hormone video that there's a culture, I forgot where, I think it was like somewhere in Africa, where the woman can't even come back home until she finished.
Oh yeah, we
You
did
get
do
what I'm
that
saying?
research. I
That
remember
is
it was so
how,
long ago. Yeah.
that has to be a very dire situation, or very
I get what you're saying.
aside, that has to be a very strong situation to where your wife can't come home until she's done having her cycle.
Yeah.
And history shows us this. History, tells us this, as far as men and women, that it's very hard for women to actually evidently maintain or go through the relationship while she's on her cycle.
Yeah.
And we talked about how much support a woman needs, because what women, you all during your cycle, you all at sometimes shut down, can't get out of bed, just angry, grumpy, and just mad at everybody for what reason? Men, we don't understand. We feel the brunt of it, we feel the force of it, but at the same token, women, you all do too, with all the stomach cramps and all that, and that the pints and pints of blood that you all are losing. I may be exaggerating, but
no, you're
I
not.
can't fathom the thought of bleeding all over, all over and I'm sorry if this is too graphic for folks, but I just can't fathom the thought of me going through all of this stuff and then having to drive to work, in which I drive an hour to work, and then having to perform throughout the day. And even imagine if men did this on construction sites, or if men did this on the battlefield as soldiers.
Right. I think that's why some of those hard labor jobs aren't occupied by women,
of
because
course
we have to consider those times. And
that's part of it. That's one of the reasons.
And I wanted to say, you're right. This is a taboo topic, but this is a topic that needs to be had. And it hasn't been. And that's what I think has contributed to so much of the misunderstanding that's going on. And then often too, believe it or not, some couples are even slightly embarrassed about having this or uncomfortable about having this conversation with your spouse. But this is the conversation you need to have with your spouse. It's the most repetitive thing that you're going to go through within your marriage. So you need to know how you can prepare for it and how you can equip yourself during it so that you come out on the other side unscathed. Like, you're not both recovering from fighting during every time y'all have that moment, that period together.
Right, because a lot of times, yeah, like my wife said, a lot of times these hormonal situations end up in arguments and points of aggression and situations where you all just can't get along. So often at times, that does lead up to divorce.
Yeah,
I'm going to say it there. So this is something that needs to be needs some dialogue behind this. This is something that needs to be greatly talked about for people to understand on both sides of the men and women.
Yeah, and what we go through and that understanding of that, because you gotta understand each other's perspectives because it's going to be totally different. But in particular, the hormones that fluctuate during a menstrual cycle will greatly affect the mood, behavior, the perception, and more importantly, of your relationship. So in particular with this young lady, I really think that's why it's more of a PMS issue, maybe an imbalance of, we're not doctors, so that's something you would have to go inquire about on your own, which I certainly recommend doing because it's affecting your perception and your ability to control your thoughts and your emotions and how you're feeling and directing that energy towards your boyfriend. Because eventually, it's been a year, 2 years? It could get, how much longer is it gonna last? And
right.
To be honest, you're in a long-term relationship where there's not much progression.
Or is she? That's just her boyfriend.
Yeah, 2 years to me, that's a long time to be with somebody and there not be any sign of progression. So it makes me wonder, is this what's even holding y'all back? And that has to be understood and handled in order for you to have a healthy relationship, because ma'am, this is going to go with you into your next relationship,
right?
And your next one.
And to make it, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Say who's to say that he's not dating someone else who's having a lighter period or have lighter hormonal situations, and this lady may not be considered as far as marriage. I'm just saying that's how deep this can get. This is how deep that this can get as far as between men and women dealing with hormones. This is, there isn't a lot of dialogue is not pushed about hormones and how important it is in order to see this, but I'm just saying, like, how do you know the age of these people? Of her and her boyfriend?
Okay. I gotta look on the thing. I don't even remember. I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm just putting that out there. It could be that deep to the point to where he comes down to the choice of having to make a decision and say, hey, hey, girlfriend number one, you having these thoughts about me and we always arguing, and you say you want to break up. Well, I can't do this anymore. I'm going with Sally. Sally has lighter periods and she doesn't have any issues with, me during her hormone situations, and she knows how to manage those very well. Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, this is something that you all really need to pay attention to.
Yeah, and you know what? Believe it or not, I always love the research to back things up. So there are a few studies that have investigated the link between the menstrual cycle and arguments. One study in particular, again, I wish I could share this, but I'll probably figure out to link it in the description of the YouTube video whenever this loads up. But anyways, so this study was published in like 2009 though, but it was a psych neuroendocrinology journal. And it found that women were more likely to argue with their spouse during the luteal phase of their cycle, which is the phase that occurs after ovulation. So that is the direct PMS, 2 weeks right after you ovulate, you're going into your menstrual cycle.
So men, you hear that?
Yeah.
So the women's menstrual cycle is actually 2 weeks? It lasts 2 weeks?
2 weeks before you're bleeding,
and then 2 weeks after,
maybe a week bleeding, depending on how long.
So that's
that could
about
vary.
3 weeks.
Right.
So
And
really, a
yeah,
woman's menstrual cycle is actually 3 weeks. So
or to where she could be impacted. Usually some women, that's what they call it, premenstrual, because usually some women's hormones should level out by the time they actually start actively bleeding. That's what you want. Usually that's a relief, right? Usually.
is it? I
But
don't know. I guess.
well, for me, then when I relate back, I'm, with being in tune with my body, it feels like relief. It's like a building up to that point,
Okay.
and then it, happens.
So that's all the rage is hidden.
I guess maybe, yeah. I don't know.
The
Maybe
release of the
so.
rage.
Maybe so. If that's something that's like pent up, sure, maybe so.
Right.
But in general, that time is certainly your period to be mindful of, right? Just to really be aware of when it could happen. And that's why if you're in a relationship, write down your woman's cycles. Don't be embarrassed about that. Like, it's really important so that you can
retreat.
prepare.
Go to your man cave. Go to your man cave, like hide under the bed somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
Like, get away. Save yourself.
It's not all bad.
And
Not
if you
all
have
women
children,
are
bring
bad.
them with you.
To bring the
Drag
children.
the children under the
Let's say
bed.
hide your kids.
Yes.
Or hide your kids, hide your husband this time.
Yes, please. No, I mean, all jokes
We
aside,
joke, yeah, we joke.
because it does impact the family as well.
It does. It
Menstrual
really does.
cycles
Yeah.
impact the families as well, and that's the time when men need to step up and help out and help out a lot as much as they can
And do things to prepare. Yeah.
right, and endure. Wear some armor, wear a helmet in the house or something for all the things that are being thrown at you.
Great.
Duck.
See, and no, we
Duck and
joke.
cover.
We joke, but you seriously have to be aware of the toxicity that can come along with not recognizing that you're having a hormone fluctuation, and you got to be mindful of, not taking this out on your spouse and doing those outrageous, unacceptable behaviors all in the sake of hormones. That's not what we're saying. Be responsible adults here and really take awareness of what's going on so that then you can, do better with it, be able to handle it better. But anyways, another study also found that women were more likely to experience negative emotions such as anger, irritability during this phase. And this journal in particular is the Hormones and Behavior. This study was published in 2011, and it found that women were more likely to engage in conflict with their spouse when their levels of progesterone were high. And so basically progesterone is the hormone that is released during the luteal phase. I don't know if I'm saying these words right, but I'm not, like, don't judge me.
Luteal.
Yeah,
that's
thank
the
you.
luteal phase.
Thank you. Thank you. Don't have me out here looking crazy.
I was a bio major once in my life, so in my past life.
Yeah, but anyways, that's the hormone that's released during that phase. So that's more evidence that really shows this is a time where you are going to more than likely experience those heightened emotions, those irritabilities, those negative perceptions, and that's probably going to be the root cause of what's going on. So, all of this, though, when it comes to studies, they are correlational. So it's not necessarily saying for fact that they prove that, the menstrual cycle causes arguments in your relationship.
Well, they just said it.
It's not like the only factor. The PMS, I agree. The PMS does, and we'll get into the symptoms. The PMS and all that will contribute, but it's also scientifically, you can't say, oh, that's the only cause of an argument, when there's other factors that could be involved, like, stress or not taking care of yourself, fatigue, different changes, life changes, all of that has to be taken into consideration when you're considering the full spectrum of why you may be feeling the way you do. Because, that's in particular what I think this young lady needs to do, because we can't just say, oh, it's hormones, when I don't know. This is the hormones, I think, are contributing to an increase of probably something that's underlying that she's not addressing, that needs to be addressed, because that's not normal to just repetitively think about leaving your spouse or breaking up with them. Like that, it's just not. I don't know. Then that is, to me, I will still, I think that is more linked to it being a mental health imbalance than just hormones around that time or something like that, or just your period.
I remember you reading something about some woman who was pregnant, and she went that couple and that relationship kind of went through the same thing. Of she wanted to leave her husband or something, and she did not know why, and come to find out she was pregnant. So she was having a hormonal imbalance. I forgot who it was. It was somebody like famous or something, and they had a hormonal imbalance dealing with that as well. So is that the same type of situation with the hormones?
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, it could, like I said, it will vary from like mild to severe. But if something like arguments being happened because like your wife all of a sudden underlying she's pregnant and she's hormonal, and so she's crying randomly at stuff, or crying, can't figure out, she gets super upset because she can't figure out what to eat or stuff like that, you know what I mean? That's more minuscule compared to repetitive thoughts that are,
wanting divorce.
Yeah, basically. Right. That's to me, that's more of a deep rooted type of it seems like it's more of attached type of cycle and less of a changing, varying from month to month. But again, this is all speculation. I'm just but yeah, that's honestly because that's extreme. Me as a woman, just in particular as a woman, all women are different. I get it. All women experience PMS differently. I get that too. But as a woman and woman to woman, when you're able to really come and recognize what's going on, you should then be able to address that and change your thoughts, get better at, taking care of yourself so that you're, lighter in thought when it comes to what you've eaten that day. If you've had enough sleep, have you been exercising? How's your hormones? Like, as it's so many different factors that can go into this that it's really, it's tough. It seems deep rooted. But we kind of digress a little bit, but yeah. Any in particular though, PMS can lead to just some general states, facts on PMS. It can lead to women to like lash out and
of course
engage or engage in like risky or impulsive behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's more of the kind of uncontrolled extreme of it all. But you should be in control. I don't, I'm not you should be in control.
Yeah, but it's almost like being under the influence of like drugs or alcohol. I'm not, I'm not trying to make fun or anything.
Yeah.
But when you're under some sort of catalyst, I would say.
Yeah.
And you're outside the normal realms of your normal self. That all of that can lead to some sort of risky dangerous behavior. I guess, to be honest with you, that's, it's kind of hard for me to try to put it into words and not be offensive. About the situation. But if you're under the influence of hormones, even men, even like some sort of testosterone supplements.
Yes.
It even says it. I think even there's warnings on like, male testosterone supplements that, be cautious of the amount that you take because you can injure yourself. And I had to look that up one time, and what testosterone supplements and men, how can we hurt ourselves taking those? And they talked about the use of lifting weights in gyms. Often at times it can give us this false sense of courage, and all of a sudden we break bones and things, and because we're thinking that we can lift so much more than we actually cannot. So
yes, that is so true. And that testosterone is scientifically linked to increased courage, confidence, aggression, exactly. In particular, if it's too much of it, it can make you engage in risky behaviors like fighting
and mood swings.
Or women. If you have less, usually less testosterone will make a man moody or cranky, or and then that's a touchy little environment. If the man is also low on his testosterone and the woman is on her period, Yeah.
So we got two moody people running through the house.
Yeah. So we certainly always recommend men to test your testosterone. Those kits are available in like pharmacies, of course,
Online.
doctor's office, online. Yep, for sure. And don't be embarrassed about it. I think
I
now
think they're a
more
bit
than ever you
pricey though,
should.
if I'm not mistaken. It was like
Yeah,
$50
but
or
the
$60.
price of knowing something
Right,
like that is
right,
well worth it.
right.
It's super worth it, because certainly if you like are as a man, you're not as outgoing go-getter like you would want to be, and so in your mind you're like, why am I not able to do these things? Consider testing your testosterone and getting that could really be all you need, especially with estrogen being in everything now.
Right.
Everything.
You see those commercials, those male enhancement commercials. Hey, you see your husband in the gym and all this other stuff,
Really?
Yeah,
What,
he's
it was
been
some
taking
Yohimbe for real?
Yeah, he's been taking some male supplement. He's working
Yeah.
out and looking great and all this other
Right.
stuff, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, on a serious note, yeah, it is important to for men to check their testosterone levels, especially if they themselves are going through mood swings and issues with sleep and wanting to losing the drive to be adventurous and doing all that manly duty stuff,
or even like sex. Like some
right,
men just
yes,
say
well,
that they're not even interested in sex.
yeah, in sex because of low testosterone.
Mhm.
That is definitely, and naturally, of course, this is cliche, but after the age of 20, men, your testosterone levels do drop. So I don't mean to take the I don't mean to take the focus off of women, but also men too. We do deal with mood swings and all of that because of the lack of testosterone. That's the reason why you get the grumpy old man syndrome. There's always mad and angry at everything and grumpy, like you never sleep.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why, is because of the lack and the lack of male testosterone.
Yeah, and now more than ever, since in particular cannabis is legal in a lot of areas, men really have to be mindful, because this is a female plant and it will increase your estrogen. This is where the female the man boobs that comes from, and if you pay attention, a lot of men who smoke cannabis, they are contributed to that, they have that
Got
because
man boobs.
yeah, estrogen is in that as well. So it's just things
And
like that.
foods.
There's things you can do though.
And foods are like a lot of
Soy,
high soy and ginger diets.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that give men higher levels of estrogen, and
Mhm.
also women too. So it
Yeah.
gives you all higher levels. Doesn't that affect your mood for women as well? Make you all
Yeah. They say too much estrogen can actually turn into testosterone, like a lower form of testosterone. Yeah, which can contribute to aggression even more, which is quite interesting. And then even too, I know we're kind of going a little bit deep into hormones, but like water, that's important too, because especially if you're in
all the
cities.
chemicals.
Yeah, you're in
I mean, that's been
cities
proven. You all
birth control pills. These are women not to be,
be careful with the water
Yeah.
y'all drink. Because there's it has been scientific proven. And I even think this week they have the PFAS chemicals, the plastics.
Yes.
Plastics leach was it estrogen
BPA?
Estrogen like markers.
Oh yeah,
No,
yeah,
PFAS,
yeah.
the
Yeah,
PFAS,
PFAS.
the forever plastics. They leach female hormonal markers in the body. So the body recognizes those chemicals often at times as estrogen.
Yeah.
And so your body act accordingly. So you all have to watch out what type of water you all are drinking out there, and make sure that you all have a good source of water to drink from. And they tell you don't drink from the hot water bottles that's in your cars. If I was you, to stop drinking from plastic as much as you can, to be honest with you. Invest in those metal those
stainless steel bottles.
Yep, stainless steel water bottles and whatnot. Just be mindful of that, because these things do affect your your level of thinking and
cognitive abilities and
emotions, sleeping patterns, and just life in general. So it does have a lot to do with mental health.
And it has greatly contributed to the feminization of men even more, because estrogen is dominated in women. So yeah, it's just one thing to really, really be mindful about in particular. But greatly, again, there are things you can do about this. Although we've, it was bare bad news for a lot of stuff, but there are things you can do about it. There's plenty of supplements you can take.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Before you get into the I guess the resolve of this.
Yeah.
Was also too that medical condition that women have that can lead to this as well? I forgot what it's called, like the ovarian something.
I don't know. It's late. I'm tired.
Oh, but you get what I'm saying,
Yeah,
right? There's
yeah.
also other medical
I'm
conditions that
sorry,
can
y'all.
contribute to
Yeah.
women's mood swings and also their estrogen levels as well. So if you all are, especially
Mhm.
women, if you all are having situations more than regular, then you may need to, please consult with a professional about this as far
Yeah.
as in the healthcare facility system, because we by far are not
Yeah.
clinically trained, licensed doctors. So
Yeah.
this is just our research and then also our opinions based upon life experiences.
Yeah.
So that is our full disclaimer.
Yes. Yeah. But please go into researching this for yourself. I always say this, don't even take what we say for face value. Go and do the research yourself and you will see it's backed up. We really do that research for yourself so it can sink in and then you go and actively do something about it. For sure. But another kind of to head back in so we can get into our resolve in particular, this whole combination of like mood and behavioral and perceptions, all of that will greatly contribute to breakups within a relationship. It can seem like, oh, things are going good. And then the next month, like we talked about, it's 3 weeks basically where you're really in, that's very, very common within the lunar phase of the woman's menstrual cycle. So that's over and over and over when this is happening. And it will really contribute, if you're not talking about this with your spouse, it will contribute to you both feeling isolated and overwhelmed. And it will certainly make it difficult to maintain the relationship. So in particular with this woman, your thoughts are going to overwhelm you, which they are. And this is why it's super hard for you to figure out, moving forward, what to do next.
Right. Yeah. And I think that if she understands that, oh, I'm going through a hormonal mood swing,
Yeah.
and I don't always feel this way. But that's half of the month I do and half of the month I don't. Then
Right.
she might realize that actually it's just her hormones.
Yeah, and
that are
actually
triggering her.
actively do things to do that. Right. So that is the first thing. You have to be aware of your triggers. So when your menstrual cycle is coming up, speak to your spouse, let them know, have this conversation of what are the things that usually trigger you and make your symptoms worse, whether that's physical or emotional. Talk about that, be open and aware of this. Men too, like when you're having this conversation, really take that in, because this is in a way that armor that you're talking about, because you have to know what you're trying to protect yourself against. So if you
gotta know
that
your enemy.
yes, you can really start to avoid these triggers and help develop coping strategies to make sure that y'all are on one accord and are able to do things y'all need to do so that y'all can move through the situation. It's gonna, as always, require communication. You have to
And
be
teamwork.
open. Yeah, open
My
to
goodness.
communicate it. Yeah, don't be scared to have this conversation. It's gosh, it's so taboo. But again, that's why we're having it here and now, because we want you all to be comfortable with having this conversation. Although this is over the internet, but still having this conversation and bringing this awareness will hopefully get you to understand that it's okay to ask for support, especially from your spouse. You have to communicate and figure out what is needed during this time so that they can be understanding to that and like aware of what they need to give you. Maybe you need more space. Maybe y'all do need to get that man cave, that she shed, that red room, that whatever you want to call it. Do that.
But also too, isn't there like there's medications for this, right?
Yeah, in particular, I always like taking the herbal route of things first. So my main suggestions are going to go right down to what you put in your body, being able to manage that. Awesome things like macaru is great, especially during this time, for balancing your hormones. And cool thing is men can take macaru as well. It's not anything that's
but there's
bad,
like like actual medical medication. Is it like birth control pills? Those birth control pills? I don't know.
I honestly can't speak on adding more hormones, because I get it. I have heard, especially during like school age, you're talking about back when I was in high school type stuff, the conversations around, oh, put your get on birth control, so if you have like tough periods, like with the cramping or whatever, or maybe like irregular I'm tired, irregular periods, like if things aren't always on a cyclical cycle or whatever, if they're so irregular, then it really just shows that, imbalance, then yeah, they will put you on birth control. But again, to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of adding more hormones to be the answer to an imbalance of hormones. If you get what I'm saying, I don't know.
I don't know either.
That would
if
be
anybody
something to
could
look into.
provide some
Yeah.
insight over there, if there's a doctor out there that's watching the show.
Yeah, some women it
If you all
works
could
though
just-
for them. I have heard, we have friends who have said, they get like the patch or like other things that takes away their menstrual cycle completely. So if this is an
but does
option
that take
you
away
want,
the symptoms?
I've
Does it?
heard both. That's
Because
what's
I don't think
tough.
that would possibly, even though you don't have a menstrual cycle, you probably still have some sort of
the emotional cycle of it. Yeah.
hormonal cycle of it, and have some symptoms of that.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is something that's really woman specific. Your body is different, and in particular, as a woman, you really have to go and figure out the things that work for you. If it does work for you to get on birth control or get on something that helps, or look into alternative health things that you can add, into your diet that could really help you manage your hormones and everything naturally on its own. I'm a bit advocate of letting your body do its thing. Our body is a wonderful machine, and God made no mistakes, and the ability for the body to be able to regenerate and get back in balance and do the things that it needs to do is amazing. So if you could support your body, would always be my biggest suggestion. But for sure, go out and do your own research on what some other things could work for you too, because in general, it's just important that you come to get this under control. Because if you're struggling with PMS and all of this that goes along with it, it's going to impact your relationship.
Of course.
Yeah. And you don't want, and it's something that's going to go with you into every relationship, especially if you're a young woman. And in particular, one last thing I did want to get into, arguing in a cycle can really cause an addiction within the brain. And this is something that we don't talk about within our community. And it's something that needs to be talked about, though, because trauma is deeply rooted in our society. But there's seriously a connection between the brain becoming addicted to the chemicals that are made during conflict and arguing. So if you are finding that during this time, you're getting a rush out of conflict, it's like the adrenaline, the cortisol, all of that, the rush that comes from fighting in a way, if you're getting that rush, it's super important for you to sit down and really think, is this deeper than hormones? Is this something that I've experienced my whole life? Is it a connection to where it's actually a cycle that is more within my mind and less in, anything else?
Well, I mean, you need to just figure out some way to channel that. Exercise. I think exercise is probably one of the best ways to help with that.
Yeah. And people argue, believe it or not, studies have found like people argue just to even like cope with difficult emotions. So you're talking about like if you're feeling angry or frustrated or like scared, you may find yourself acting out or arguing as a way of like
arguing.
I'm tired. As a way of coping. Yes, that too.
Arguing.
But as a way of like coping with your emotions, you go and you argue. It can really be a destructive habit if you don't really take the time to get that in check and really think what could be going on. Another thing too that can be connected with this whole addiction to conflict is it being a way of getting attention. So young lady, during this time, is this a way to get attention from your man? Like, how is your dynamic during this time? Like when you are constantly feeling this way around him, are you treating him in any certain way to get him to do something else, or give you the attention in a different way that you want because it's around this time of the month? I don't know. That's just super important though, to sit down and think about what you're doing, how your emotions, how all of this is impacting not only yourself and your well-being, but also your relationship, because that's not a good start. If you can't get a handle on this. Yeah. So there are a few things though, really quick, that we want to go over, that if you are having an addiction to conflict, because I don't want to just leave this with something that you can't work towards fixing. In particular, you have to identify those underlying issues. Like, where did this come from? What are the real reasons why you're arguing? Or in particular with this young lady, what are the real reasons to why you're having these thoughts about your boyfriend? Are you, angry, frustrated, scared? Like, what's going on? This is something that you're going to have to figure out, whether that's through journaling, a coach, a therapist, yourself, a grandma, grandpa, I don't know, just talk about this and figure out what are the true underlying issues, so that way you're actually able to learn how to communicate them effectively, because it's the only way that this is going to go into the next relationship and not cause a problem if you do break up with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let me see. Also, to last minute thoughts, and if you are able to express yourself in a way that is, clear and able to really get across what you need, in particular in this moment, or in general, whenever you're arguing, and being able to conflict resolve, this is important so that you're able to understand your partner and your spouse's point of view, because you want to see how you're impacting them and things that you can do better next time, these things happen. So what are some little things that you can adjust, or boundaries that you can set, so that this hormonal issue or whatever issue, conflict issue, underlying issue, whatever it is, whatever's causing these arguments of those bad repetitive thoughts, it's super just important that you're able to figure out what you can do and the boundaries you can set and the resolutions you can put in place so that you guys can move forward. Because you don't want to be stagnant in this relationship for too much longer.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2 years. I never recommend long-term relationships, but some of y'all like them.
What do you mean long-term relationships?
Long-term relationships without any commitment. Like, y'all not married. Y'all not.
Well, that's the reason why I told you that the man
years.
holds the keys to the relationship and proposal.
Right.
So that's what he's doing. He's probably
not wanting to marry you. No, that's not. Yeah. Yeah, just please, really don't let this ruin a good thing. If this man has not done anything to your relationship, just don't ruin a good thing, because you're not able to control yourself and control your emotion. We call that self-sabotage. Our community got a good habit of self-sabotaging because you're not used to good things. Don't ruin a good thing. Seriously.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah. But yeah, if all else, if you can't handle this type of stuff, seek professional help, both men and women. I mean, this could be a very traumatic situation for both of you all. And it could lead, like I said in the beginning, on the brink of divorce or separation or breaking up. So you all need to find some sort of third party out there who can basically help mentor and guide you through these tough situations and give you some sort of resolution to these problems. So you need to understand that and understand the issues, the underlying issues, and help develop, like my wife said, coping mechanisms in order to get you through these cyclical periods and moments of argument. So
what do we do? I'm trying to think of some things we do. I'm very vocal.
One thing is one thing I think that helps out a lot is exercise. To be honest with you, a lot of us, Americans on average probably don't get enough exercise like we should.
Yeah,
and people need to understand it too, that I think that exercise actually helps with balancing out those hormones, and helping you all to cope with those as well. And also men too, helps us to balance our hormones out and cope with them as well. But also too, I mean, I don't know what history told us in the past. There's not much you really can do but separate and come back together in a peaceful way.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the things that we do. The most thing we communicate a lot.
Like we dropped it in the video before. Be supportive. Men need to help out with their wives or girlfriends or what have you in those times when they're having, the hardest of the hardest parts of their menstrual cycles. And but it also takes a it takes a teamwork effort, because men don't like to be, we don't like to feel bashed down and beat down during these times, and often at times that's what we get triggered by. That it creates some sort of trauma within us as well. So be mindful of that. It's not always we understand that. I mean, I understand that you all are going through something that's hormonal, but a lot of, like I said before, a lot of men don't understand this type of stuff, and often at times we will leave the situation and because of it. So that it doesn't get worse or bad or what have you. And this is something that comes off to us as something we cannot explain at all or try to fix. And that's in our nature to try to fix situations like this, and we really can't. So it really takes the work of the woman, and we rely on you all a lot to give us feedback, give us dialogue about how you're feeling, and letting us know that, hey, I'm about to come up on this hormonal situation again, and just let's be mindful of it, and let's work around it, and make things let's coexist and try to find ways that we don't have to argue. But
and just being mindful of how you're dynamic during that time.
Right.
I think back when with us, the first time that we really noticed the cycle was when we also got pregnant too. And I remember that might have been around that time when I seen that article too. But just in general, like whenever I was pregnant, we never recognized it because it'd be like the emotions are so extreme, but I'd be like so vocal, like, honey, I'm like cranky, like I don't know what's going on. Like you really have to communicate about those times, about how you're feeling, and like don't even don't even just try to tone it down and not be open and vocal and honest. This is the best time to do that. So then the man is like, aware.
Well, but also to be respectful.
Yes, and it doesn't excuse bad behavior.
Bad behavior for putting somebody down and just
being abusive.
Abusive. Yeah. Because often at times I think a lot of guys feel like, isolated, like what you said, isolated and alone because their significant other is being abusive verbally towards them and for no reason, and we just can't figure this out. Like this one girl just wanted to leave her boyfriend. I'm pretty sure she probably verbally abusive towards him, and she just can't explain why.
You don't know, because when you're having thoughts like that, you just don't know how it comes
all can
off.
See, but women, you all can see from this conversation how weird this is to men, and how we just can't fathom this. That we just can't fathom this because we don't go through things like this. We just one day it's like hot and cold. Like one day you're hot and the next day you're cold.
Right.
We just cannot fathom it, and it comes off as being crazy. That's all we say. Like all y'all are crazy. Coping mechanisms for men, especially if they're not in marriage, it looks like going from one relationship, getting to one relationship to another relationship to another relationship,
just leaving them.
Not knowing that this type of stuff is a natural process, and men end up thinking that all women are crazy, like I said before. So that I'm glad that we're able to provide the narrative and the dialogue, some sort of dialogue to this conversation and hormones, because it needs to be had more often than not, so that couples don't have to break up, don't have to go through,
especially not over this. Like, no, you need to be an understanding,
right? But also too, more men need to understand they need to be of service, and need to understand what they're getting into when we get into relationships with women. That you all have these cycles, especially young guys out there, because that is going to be their perception, the negative perception that women are crazy. And they don't understand why. We don't understand why why this has to happen, and why you have to be abusive, or why I have to feel this way and wanting to leave and whatnot. Because what happens is that then, like I said before, the young guy gets into another relationship with a woman who's not going through her menstrual cycle, and think that grass is green on that other side until they have a conflict of some sort out of nowhere, and they don't know where it's coming from. So it needs to be had. Talk to your children about these your young adult children about these situations too.
Don't be afraid of those conversations. I think that
especially the young men, the young grown men out there
that talking about it,
because this like I said, that house hopping for those young guys, that's what's going on with a lot of them, is that, hey, I ain't got to deal with this, I ain't got to put up with this, I'm gone. I'm going to check out Sally, see what she's doing. So It's just real. This is what's going on. This is a dynamic in relationships that needs to be talked about.
Yeah, and it's not all bad. Again, we're one of the examples, and I really think that's why God put us up to doing this, because we have really gone through this too. We understand when you're trying to figure out what is it, what is going on. But it's just super important to recognize it and implement the things you need to. Mainly, I can't figure out too much things that we do per se, because a lot of it is things I have to do for myself. Like in order to, I'll be like, oh, my period is coming, so I need to do things.
It's not much, and men feel helpless. Like you all have to understand that women and men, like y'all have to understand at times like this, we feel ultimately helpless. And I'm trying to express this because men are naturally fixers.
Yeah.
We like to figure out what the root cause of this is and then try to fix it. And we cannot.
No.
Men, you can't fix this.
Yeah.
You can only be of service and try to help your wife and endure the situation. And try to be understanding. Yeah. But at the same token, I don't take abusiveness. I don't take abusive language and being someone, belittle me, berating me because of what you're feeling and how you go and how you feel and what you're going through.
Yeah.
And a lot of men, this goes unheard throughout, regardless of what race you are, what nationality you are, this goes unheard throughout these throughout relationships.
Yeah.
And that is just the truth of the matter.
Yeah. But you can work through it. You really can. Just
right. But as women, it's really the women that really drives this portion of the relationship. We need this feedback from you all. We need that, that information from you. I think Monica made the song, just one of those days. I mean, and that is something that it was that important that she had to write a song about it so that we can understand.
Mary J. Blige too.
She did.
I'm PMS. Yeah.
She made a song called PMS. Oh, I've never heard of it. I've probably never heard of it.
You have. You just don't. It's not something we let.
Right. But I mean, but instead of making all these other crazy songs, make songs about these type of things that happen in relationships and how you work through it. Because it's real out there, because a lot of us don't know how to get through these situations. We just don't. And like my wife said, is that it's really for women to give the men all of the feedback, all of the, what your status, we're checking on your status situation of how you feeling, and trying not to inflame the situation or make it worse. We're trying to make things better, but at the same token, like I said before, please don't be abusive towards your man, especially if he's a good and great man, because you don't want to lose him because of this.
That is true.
That's all I'm trying to express and trying to provide to the fellas out there.
Yeah. And one more thing I don't think we noted, but for the ladies, it's really hard to even know if you're PMSing when you're single. So this is certainly something that you just have to be mindful of when you haven't been in a relationship in a while. Because when you get into that relationship, please be on guard to how you're coming off at this time, because for a while you were single and you didn't have nobody to PMS on. So you don't know how you're going to come off, so.
Yeah. And then I go back to what I was saying about a lot of us guys don't have sisters. Or mom is different. We see the relationship between mom and dad, but we don't know all the time whenever she's going through her cycle, or if we remember those times, because you're a child and then you don't pay attention to that stuff at all. And often at times when you're in a preteen or teenagers, your mom is probably done with her cycle. I don't know, but like I said, unless you had a sister, then you would have never experienced a woman going through these changes and trying to get into a young relationship, dealing with women who are going through this. It can be a very life-changing experience. I'm gonna leave it at that. Very triggering and traumatic dealing with relationships. And and men just need to be made aware that these things, that this type of dynamic exists in relationships.
Yeah.
And there's ways that you can cope with it and help and make the situation better.
Yeah. Well, I think we beat this up enough, but again, this is an important conversation. So.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
If y'all have any questions or anything,
comments, anything.
Let me check the chat. Or I hope you all have gotten something from this. Yeah, it's always our goal for what we're doing to be able to offer you all value of something that you can do in your relationship, and if anything, awareness. So I really hope you have taken something from this. This has been a good conversation.
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Blueprint family. We really
Yeah.
appreciate you. If you all can, like I said in the beginning, please like and share our videos, especially on YouTube. Like and share our videos on YouTube.
Send them to them people that know they got them cyclical,
Issues
conflicts.
and conflicts, because this may be the reason why that they're going through those things. And then we also have a video in our past about how to break that cycle.
Yeah, we dug in a little deeper before, but
we probably need to follow up and do that one over again. So if for those people who are out there, we'll probably do that tomorrow. So the you all are out there, we can also do a video about that. The cycle, breaking the cycle of arguing. If that's what you're going through. As always, we're always open to topics. If you all have topics that you want us to talk about, please submit it to us. If you want to remain anonymous, you can submit it through my wife's school website. Yes, we said a wife school website. So
wife course. I'm more likely to say it's an online course, 7-week course and implementation program. I'm so excited about this implementation program in particular because it's going to grow into something beautiful. What I hope will actually in turn become arranged marriages. But
and you can find that at wifeconomics.com. If you want to submit a question to us there anonymously, you can through www.wifeconomics.com/submit a question, and you will remain anonymous, and we can answer your question on hopefully the next show. And that's normally how we do things here. So if no one has anything to say, no comments, no questions, we
got
really
a full house
appreciate
in Instagram. So I think we had a little jet lag because it's so full too. I was noticing
some buffering.
Yeah, maybe we're working on it. We got some exciting things. We're trying to get on some other platforms too. So we're excited to see the growth of what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, we do this for you all. I mean, this is information I didn't have growing up, and I wish I had it because I would have moved better relationship wise, or whatever the case may be, especially for the, like I said, the younger men out here, they need to know this information. And then also too, newlyweds, my goodness, you all need this information too, especially if that is your first real situation, relationship. You don't have to break up because of hormone. It may be daunting for men, to be honest with. I'm just trying to relay that message out there. When women go through their cycles, and you all have this cycle of arguing, and men, we just do not know why.
They be like, oh hell no, I ain't about to. Y'all don't choose to be alone because of it now. There's ways to mitigate it. And ladies, y'all gotta help. Like we gotta get in control of that. So you don't want to scare the men away. Don't scare them now. Don't scare them.
Right. So, all right, that's enough. We beat this up enough. Thank you all for coming out tonight. So you all have a good night. Peace.
Oh, my thank you screen. Sorry.